Okay, this is my first tutorial for formz. In this tutorial we'll just investigate creating some simple building shapes and learning how we can control the dimensions of those shapes as we model. Before we start, we better check our units settings. So up under the formz menu, Preferences, under your Project General you'll find your default working units. Click on your default working units, and I'm going to be using a scale of medium, which is suitable for buildings. I'll be using metric millimetres, and I'll have decimal places, number of decimal places 1, and I normally uncheck trailing zeros. So just click OK to that and OK to that. We've set up our units. We can then start modelling our first part of the building. So we'll create our first formz object. Now, a good little tool in formz is the rectangle tool to start with. So we'll start drawing a rectangle. And before we do, we'll just have a look at our tool options. If you haven't got your tool options palette open, just find your tool options palette and double click on the heading to make sure it's open. I'll just double click there, you see how it collapses. Double click on the heading and it's open. We've got a couple of different options that you can create when you're drawing rectangles. You can create just a 2D shape is the first option, and it'll finish the command when it finishes the 2D shape. Or you can see these other little icons representing the different sorts of options that you've got here, and one that we'll use quite often in a building shape will be a 3D wall. So that'll automatically create a wall thickness for us, and within the command then enter into an extrusion mode. You'll see how that happens in a second. So we'll go and make sure you select 3D wall. Just change your justification for the moment to left and give it a wall width of 90 millimeters, and we'll make the height dynamic. So you'll see what that does in a second when we're into the rectangle command here. I'll just start your rectangle anywhere that you like, and you can start dragging out the rectangle, and I'll just zoom in here so you can see what's happening. As you see here, I'm drawing the external perimeter of the rectangle if I click on the left and drag to the right, or if I click on the right of the screen and drag to the left, you'll see we're drawing the inside of the rectangle. That's all driven by the fact that we set our justification up to be left. So if I go back to dragging out from the left towards the right, we'll get the extremities of the building. Now, I've obviously clicked something out of here at the moment. I've lost the focus on the length and the width. So if I click back up here into the length, I can gain the focus back. You'll see it's highlighted in blue again here now. So at the moment, my length, if whatever I type, will automatically go into that blue highlighted length field. So if I type something like keep this building fairly small, if we type something like 12 metres, 12,000, and then hit the tab key, that locks that dimension of 12,000 and takes you to the width. So if we do something in the width like 6,000, and then I'll go back to 6,000 again, sorry. Bring the focus back by swiping there, 6,000, and then press enter. And now we give it a height, and let's give this a height of 2760 for a nominal 2.7 metre high wall. So 2760 and press enter. We've got our first formz object there. Now you might, as soon as we do hit finish the command, we're actually left with these guidelines which will allow us to change it. I don't want you to change it at the moment, but they would allow you to click on any of those yellow arrows and stretch this out into a different shape. But we took a bit of effort to make sure that that shape was just right, so I'm going to leave it just like that at the moment. And then I'll just go back to the pick tool or hit the escape key. We'll get you out of that object. Now that is one object. If we hover over the top of it, you can see how that one rectangular wall shape highlights as one object. And you also see over in your objects palette that it's created an object for you that you can control the visibility of. In formz you have a couple of different visibilities. You've got whether it's visible, or ghosted, or not visible. And ghosted, you'll see, becomes a little bit useful. You'll see that a little bit later on. I'm going to continue creating some more shapes on this model. And this time I'll create a V-line tool, the vector line tool. So not just a single line, but a vector line. Now it's the same, and this time I think you'll find, well, we'll make a start anyway. We'll leave the justification left, and you'll see we might have to change that in a second. We'll leave the wall width also to 90. Make sure you're also still in a 3D wall command. And the dynamic. Now if I click this bottom point, or actually watch what happens as you hover over a surface. It starts to think that you want to draw on one of those other surfaces. Now I don't. I want to draw out here. I want to draw on this ground plane for the moment. I don't want to start drawing walls that are perpendicular to this surface. I want them to be perpendicular to the ground plane. Now what you can do is, as you can see, if I hover over a different surface, the reference plane that we're working with changes to that surface. But sometimes it's handy to be able to lock that reference plane to a particular plane. And at the moment, I want to lock my reference plane to this ground plane. So while I've got the cursor outside here and the ground plane is active, if I press the F5 key, what that will do is that locks that reference plane in now, and I can hover over any of the other surfaces and that reference plane will be locked to that ground plane. So we're back in our vector line drawing command, and I'm going to click on this bottom corner point here to start drawing. And as you can see, if I draw out in this green axis direction, you can see my wall doesn't line up with the edge of the wall, and that's because I'm on left hand justified at the moment, and it's got to do with the direction of the wall that I'm drawing. So while I'm drawing that wall, I just come over to the options palette, and I'll just change the justification to right during the middle of the command. And now my wall lines up. So I'm going to draw an extension out in this direction of, say, something like 4500. Press enter. Oh, that didn't work for me. I'm just going to undo that. Command Z, so I'll just do Command Z or Control Z in Windows. Do that again out here, 4500, and press enter. I'm getting something unusual happening here at the moment. I think I'll just have to go back and start again, but I'll do this. I'll just escape out of mine and do this command again. Vector line, right hand justified. So if I click there, click out in this direction, I can see my length's working at the moment. You see the focus on the length because it's blue. I just obviously, by explaining something on the video, I changed the focus up here. So if I just go back and do 4500 and press enter, I've got a wall that's 4500 long. I'm going to come out another 4500 in this direction, and then I'll go back until it touches the wall, but this time I'll double click, and double clicking finishes that wall. Okay. Now I can go up the 2760 that we did before, or I can just click on one of these edges that it's already been drawn to. See the focus of my cursor over here, it'll snap to that same height as that point there. So if I click there, I've created my wall shape there now. I'll just either escape or go back to the pick tool, and you can see now that we've got two objects created over here. Object number 1, for some reason it's called object number 3, I'm not too sure why that is. Now what we can do here at the moment to keep all of my walls as one object in this floor plan, I can go to the modify menu down the bottom here, and I can pick the union command, and I can union this object here to that object there. So that's done a Boolean union command to that, and what it's done is it's actually kept the original objects, the original individual objects, and made a new object that has got a combination of them. And in doing so, the beauty of this is it's automatically cleaned up all the wall surfaces, all the joins and everything have been cleaned up accurately. So I probably won't use those other objects again. Now you can see this ghosting arrangement's happening through here. If I turn off the visibility of this object, you can see the ghost image of the others left in behind. And if I turn the visibility on of some of these other objects, you can see what's happening here. Okay. Now I won't use those individual objects again, so I'm inclined to clean this up as we go. I'll just right click over on the object name here and delete, and the other one also, right click and delete, and then I'll turn the visibility of our new object back on. So we've got this new object, and as you can see, the corners of the walls are joined nicely, and it's created a nice uniform solid in that regard. Okay, so there's our walls created. We'll just do a bit of a save at that point. I'll stop the video and we'll come back and we'll start creating a bit of a roof surface there. So just do a file save it into a logical place. I'll just call mine tutorial 1. I'm just going to save mine to the desktop at the moment, and we'll save that. I'll stop the video and we'll come back in a second.